Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Movesets video. Today's video is going to be all about one of my favorite bug types, Venomoth. So let's start this off by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Venomoth is a bug poison type Pokemon introduced into Generation 1 and has access to 3 pretty awesome abilities. The first of which being Shield Dust, which is an ability that makes it so that damaging moves used by your opponent do not have a chance to trigger a secondary effect, meaning that if your opponent is going for Scald trying to burn you, with the Shield Dust ability there's actually a 0% chance for that to happen. As for its next ability, it is probably one of the best offensive abilities in the game, which is known as Tinted Lens, which actually doubles the power of moves that are not very effective, essentially allowing them to do normal damage, and this is amazing for allowing a Pokemon like Venomoth to just rely on only its stab moves to just deal a ton of damage to its opponents. As for its last ability though, it is known as Wonder Skin, which is probably the least useful of its abilities, but what it does do is it makes it so that non-damaging attacks that have a chance to trigger something like a burn or, like Will-O-Wisp or Thunder Wave or something like that, have a significantly reduced accuracy, basically making it so that Venomoth can dodge these moves. So it's a pretty cool ability in and of itself, but not better than Shield Dust or Tinted Lens in my opinion. But as for the stats, this Pokemon is a pretty mixed bag, possessing base 70 HP, 65 physical attack, 60 defense, 90 special attack, 75 special defense, and 90 speed, meaning that pretty much you're going to be running Venomoth as a offensive special attacker, especially due to the fact that it has access to Quiver, which is one of its most commonly used sets, which I'll go over in just a second. But overall, it still isn't going to be too useful at taking hits, though it does have a ton of support moves that you can make use of outside of just an offensive set, which I'll also be going over in just a moment. But with that, let's take a look at the first set and most standard set that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to be running Venomoth as a boosting special attacker, and this is probably what you most know Venomoth for, but for those that are unfamiliar with Venomoth, this is really the set to go with when you're starting to use this Pokemon for the first time. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a timid nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, running the Tinted Lens ability, and then running an EV spread of 4 defense EVs, 252 special attack EVs, and 252 speed EVs to give you your maximum speed and special attack. As to the moves, this set is basically just designed to put something to sleep and set up to sweep your team. So to do that, we're first going to be running Sleep Powder on this set, which does have a 75% accuracy chance to put things to sleep. Obviously, the cool thing about this set also is that the only thing that can dodge Sleep Powder are grass types and things that have the Overcoat ability, and grass types do not want to stand on Venomoth because they could either take a Sludge Bomb or a Bug Buzz. So this pretty much guarantees your ability to put something to sleep just because of this Pokemon's typing. But once something is put to sleep, you go for Quiver to boost your special attack, your special defense, and your speed by 1 stage, and then you pretty much just use Bug Buzz. Obviously, it has additional attacking options. I put Sludge Bomb as an option here in the last move slot. You could also theoretically go with something like Hidden Power Ground or Hidden Power Fire, just to cover those 2 things that exist in the metagame that quad resist Bug Buzz, which is really just off the top of my head like something like Heatran or Magearna or Klefki. There are a few others, obviously, that I could probably list off, but it's unnecessary for right now. But because you pretty much only need to rely on Bug Buzz, you can actually just run Roost in your last move slot to have a reliable way to recover health as you attack. But typically just going with Bug Buzz and Sludge Bomb will pretty much cover everything that you're going to need to damage. And lastly, for the item, we can either go with Black Sludge for some recovery at the end of every turn, or go with Buginium Z to just have a super powerful Bug-type move to make use of. As for this next moveset, if you're not someone that necessarily wants to spend all the time to try and set up with this Pokemon, here is another really awesome set to make use of this Pokemon's power outright, which is to basically focus around using Venomoth with the Choice Specs item. So for the nature, we're going to go again with Timid, and for the ability, we're again going to go with Tinted Lens, and also the same EV spread as before, with 4 defense, 252 special attack EVs, and 252 speed EVs, but we're just basically going to change these moves up just a little bit to compensate for the fact that we're running the Choice Specs item to boost our special attack power. Now the reason why this is also really good is, like I said before, because Tinted Lens basically negates resistances, you could pretty much just fire off Bug Buzz or Sludge Bomb at will and not really worry about it because it's going to do a ton of damage with the Choice Specs item to anything, unless obviously it does quad resist or is immune to it if you're going with Sludge Bomb against a Steel type or something. But to compensate for that on this set, we're going to run either Hidden Power Ground or Hidden Power Fire just to give you a super effective move against Pokemon like Heatran or Magearna or things like that. They're going to be obviously quad resisting Bug Buzz or be immune to Sludge Bomb. And then for the last move on this set, we're either going to run Giga Drain as a way to give this Pokemon a way to not only recover health, but also do a good bit of grass damage that is also going to be unresisted by anything that doesn't quad resist it, or go with U-Turn on this set, which actually has a cool little application in the fact that U-Turn also gains the benefit of Tinted Lens. So your U-Turns are actually going to be pretty powerful despite running, a more specially offensive set. But this will give this Pokemon a little bit more mobility around the battlefield, which can be very useful because most people will probably expect the Quiver Dance set. So U-Turning can give you an opportunity to switch out into something to counter whatever was brought in to deal with the Quiver Dance set, which can be a very useful thing for allowing this Pokemon to keep momentum throughout the battle. And this set in and of itself just kind of allows you access to that power without the setup, which is a very cool way to run this because of Tinted Lens. Up next, we have what is probably my favorite set of this video, which is an offensive trapping set for Venomoth to run. So like before, we're again going to go with the Timid Nature, the Tinted Lens ability, and the same EV spread as before, just because this is the most optimal way to run a special attacking Venomoth. But for the moves on this set, they're going to function completely differently, but also work similarly in some other ways, which I'll get to in just a second. But the main pull for using this set over the others is the first move, which is Infestation, which is going to be trapping our opponents, making it impossible for them to escape, and then also dealing a little bit of damage at the end of every turn, which is going to be useful for allowing you to eventually take that Pokemon out. But if Venomoth is faster than its opponent after you've trapped it, you can just continuously put that Pokemon to sleep through the use of Sleep Powder. And this is really cool because normally something will be brought in to be maybe sleep fodder so that you can't put something else to sleep, but because they're trapped, they can't switch out, so they're going to stay asleep, and then whenever something is brought in after you hopefully take out the opponent, you can just put that to sleep. But to kind of augment this combination a little bit more, we're going to run either Substitute to get behind a protective barrier to shield you from attacks and statuses if your opponent wakes up before you take it out. And then obviously once they kill your sub, you can just put them back to sleep, go for sub again, and if you theoretically take that Pokemon out before your sub is broken, you now have a free sub up against your opponent. On the following turn, whatever they bring in, you can trap it, then put it to sleep again, then go for sub. But if you want to go a more offensive route, Quiver Dance is the option here, because if your opponent does bring in something that isn't going to be too threatening to Venomoth, you can essentially get to +6 very easily after you've trapped them, because they're going to be asleep. You just keep Quiver Dancing over and over and over and over and over again. They wake up, you put them back to sleep, and you keep Quiver Dancing again. They wake up, you Quiver Dance again after it's the endless cycle here. And once you get to essentially +6, though it's not going to happen that way every single time, this is just a theoretical example, you can just go for Bug Buzz and sweep your opponent's team from that point on. It's a very effective way to use this Pokemon. It pretty much guarantees a setup more effectively than the first moveset, but it does function a little bit differently because it doesn't have as good type coverage. You're giving up Sludge Bomb or Roost for a set like this one, but it still works incredibly well, and it will also be useful because we're going to be going with Black Sludge to increase our sustain throughout the battle, allowing you to set up more subs, potentially, or just last longer while you attempt to Quiver Dance on your opponent. And finally, for the last moveset of this video, I'm going to be showing you a really effective support moveset that Venomoth can run. So again, we're going to start with the Timid Nature to increase our speed but lower its physical attack, and also go with the Tinted Lens ability. However, the EVs this time are going to put 248 EVs into its HP, 8 into its special attack, and 252 EVs into its speed, just to give you that much needed extra bulk in your HP to allow the set to be used a little bit more effectively. You still want to run max speed because you really don't gain much from investing into either the defense or special defense stat, just because Venomoth is not really that bulky. So being able to have a high speed stat will guarantee some extra usefulness out of this as opposed to trying to just run it completely defensively. But for the moves on this set, our first one is still going to be Sleep Powder because it's an excellent move. You gain the advantage of putting stuff to sleep, which is always beneficial when your opponent cannot attack, and also that extra boost in that Venomoth has Stab Bug Buzz to be used against grass types that want to potentially come in and dodge a Sleep Powder. But along with this, we're also going to be making use of Toxic Spikes, which is a move that I feel like most people don't even know that Venomoth learns because they typically just run it as a Quiver Dancer. But this is an amazing support move in that it'll be setting up hazards on your opponent's side of the field that will poison opponents anytime they switch in, which is really great for allowing you to slowly chip away at your opponent's health throughout the battle. Up next, we're then going to run Bug Buzz just because it's really the best attacking option for Venomoth to make use of. And then for the last move slot, either making use of Roost to give you some added recovery throughout the battle, which is very useful being a bug type, obviously, because you are weak to Stealth Rock, but also just because it will allow Venomoth to potentially last a little bit longer, to possibly put something else to sleep, come in at another point in the battle to put a second layer of spikes up, or reset them up if they've been defogged or rapid spinned away, or a poison type has come in, and just give you some greater survivability overall. But additionally, you can also just run U-turn on the set to give Venomoth that exceptional ability to scout opponents, weaving in and out of the battle very effectively, to then obviously bring in something to counter your opponent's team very easily after you've put something to sleep or set up hazards. So no matter how you want to use this last move, it's just a really great utility option for Venomoth to run on a more supportive set. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video on Venomoth. As mentioned before, this is one of my favorite bug types, and possibly due to the Baton Pass ban of recent, one of the biggest Pokemon that got nerfed as a result of the Baton Pass ban, as well as the fact that I think they also banned moves like Quiver Dance from being Baton Pass like many years ago. Because of that, I basically wanted to just showcase some other movesets that this Pokemon can potentially run outside of just Baton Pass and Quiver Dances, which is why it has been borderline, I think, the last couple generations. With that, everybody, that is it for this video, like I said. So as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.